All right, answering some more of your asks today. Let's just jump right in. If Beth's really dead, not coming back, and we were wrong with our TD theories all along, then can we please report Scott Gimple to the police for committing a crime through show running, if possible? If Beth is not really coming back and she really died from the gunshot to the head at the Grady Hospital, then that would be a huge disservice to her character, to us as fans, and especially to Emily Kinney. I believe that the majority of the audience aren't too fond of Beth's death in Coda, and a lot of them said that it's so out of character for her to do that. If Beth's alive and will return, which I believe and wish to be true to this day, but it gets harder to see that each passing day, then we should praise Scott Gimple for planning this far ahead way back then, and especially to Emily Kinney for putting so much of her time and commitment into portraying Beth for us and herself. If not, then we should all collectively curse Gimple out enough to make it on the news, just like how the thing with the forks as a way to request bringing Beth back. Remember that? It was spoons, actually. Yeah, but I do remember that. So, yeah, I mean, I agree, and I'm not really worried about this too much. Like, I believe she's coming back. I don't think we're going to have to curse Scott Gimple or anything like that. It would be a huge disservice, and that's a lot of why I don't think that is the case. You're definitely right that the majority of the audience did not like Coda. The thing that certain ships, especially the Dark Ship, do not like to admit is that season 5 was, up until Daryl Dixon, the first season of the spinoff aired, season 5 was like the most watched season of any seasons. And there was a lot of reason for that. I mean, season 4 ended really well. Season 4 was an excellent season leading into season 5. So it was kind of at the height of its popularity then. But a huge reason that most people were watching the first part of season 5 was because they wanted to know if Daryl was going to find Beth. And like I said, the other ships don't like to say that. They don't like to admit that. They will tell us, scream, take it all the way to their graves that was not the case, but it was, okay? The fact that she was kidnapped, the fact that there was a little bit of romance there, I would venture to say the vast majority, like maybe not 90%, but like 75% of people were tuning in just to see what happened with Daryl and Beth's storyline. So yeah, people hated Coda. They hated that it was so tragic. They hated that he found her only to have her go down right in front of him. It still is... The end of Coda is still cited as one of the most epic and iconic moments in the entire series, with him carrying her out. But that would not be the case if 5 people had watched it, right? So definitely most people did not like it. Definitely most people wanted the two of them to get together and were disappointed when they didn't. I think most people weren't all that surprised. They weren't looking at the symbolism like we do, saying, whoa, something is off here, something's wrong. To them, it was just another death, another way to show tragedy in the show, another way to keep Daryl from having a romance, So to them, it was kind of par for the course, just because they weren't looking as closely as we do. But yeah, you're definitely right that, and I've said this a million times, I think that when she shows up again, a lot of people who were watching back then and have since left the show because they lost interest will come back to it. And the vast majority of the fans will be all for a Beth and Daryl romance. It's the other ships who definitely don't want that, who will be against it and who will be railing against it really, really loudly on social media. But most of the fandom will be able to get behind it, and they will absolutely love it that she's back, and they will want to see what happens. So I'm very excited for that. And I do agree with everything you said. And yeah, the spoons was a big deal. And I know it was spoons because it was to symbolize the DC spoon, and understand that, yes, it was a way for them to protest and say that they wanted her back, but it was also a way to show that they were angry because it seemed that they had set up some symbolism with her using the DC spoon that they didn't pay off. So that was also a way for fans to tell Gimple they were unhappy, not just with the way the arc had ended, but they felt deceived by it because he had set up all this stuff and then not paid it off. And, that goes to show that even if people don't believe she's alive, they were noticing the symbolism. They were feeling that he was putting romance in there for a reason, and then they felt betrayed when she got shot and seemed to have left the show. So that's actually really important. Another thing to point out is that Gimple did actually answer that in an interview that doesn't get circulated very much. He said, in terms of bringing Beth back, because that's what the people who sent in the spoons wanted, that they were working on it. Now, that may sound like a total confirmation that she's coming back. And, to me, it is. But most people, even if they heard the interview, didn't take it that way because she did show up again in 509 and then after that in 905. So I think most people took it as, okay, they're going to bring her back in a flashback or in a memory or in a hallucination. And so when they saw 509, they're like, oh, that's what he was talking about. So understand that most people don't see that as a she's coming back for real kind of a thing. And I think the reason that Gimple was willing to say that is because he knew people would take it that way, But I also say that Gimple doesn't lie through his teeth to us, the fans. I mean, does he exaggerate? Yes. Does he hyperbolize? Does he misdirect? Yes. But he does not tell all-out lies. So the fact that he said that, I think, in a response to the spoons is actually very significant. So anyway, thank you for the ask. I haven't really thought about that in a long time. Currently continuing FTWD where I left off a few weeks ago. I think I'm in season 3 or something, just an episode or 2 after they reach the military base on the Mexico-USA border. What are your favorite FTWD characters? I'll read your analysis post after I'm done with the series to avoid spoilers, but man, why can't my sons ever survive? Who are my favorite FTWD characters? I came to love a lot of the characters. I really liked John Dory and June. I liked their story a lot. I did like Grace. Her and Morgan's story was really good. In fact, my favorite episode of FTWD in recent seasons was called In Dreams. It's a very tragic episode. I'm not going to say it's a happy episode, but I loved that episode. The storytelling was just amazing in it. But I got to the point where I really did like all of the characters. So I liked the early characters. I've said this before. I was never a huge fan of Madison. She was a little bit too much like the TV version of Andrea to me. Like I just got really annoyed with her, which is just my opinion. But other than that, I liked most of the other characters. I liked Alicia. I liked Nick. And then once Morgan crossed over, I actually liked most of the characters that they brought onto the show. I always liked Daniel. He was very much a resurrection or serious character. I don't know. So I don't know that I have one particular favorite, but I got to the point where I really liked them all. I honestly don't remember very well the early seasons of Fear the Walking Dead. I did watch them, but it's been a long time, and I didn't analyze them with the same amount of detail that I did the flagship show. So I really need to go back and rewatch them because I think there's a lot of clues in them, and there's a lot of symbolism in them. Galadriel Jones has watched them much more recently than I have, and she's always bringing things to my attention that I'd completely forgotten about, and it's like, whoa, yeah, that's some Beth symbolism right there, and it's not to say that Beth is or was ever going to show up in Fear the Walking Dead, although we did consider it, especially in the final seasons. But it's just that they use the same symbolism across the entire TWD universe, and that's really significant. There's always resurrection symbolism, there's always serious symbolism, and they use it for more characters than just Beth, but the point is she's going to be kind of the ultimate return or the ultimate serious character. So it just reinforces what we've been saying for a lot of years now. So yeah, I hope you continue to enjoy Fear the Walking Dead. I really did. I enjoyed the final seasons. I thought it was really great. And I'm glad I got to watch it. So I hope you like it too. All right, next one. I remember seeing some behind the scenes photos of Emily Kinney filming post Coda wearing her iconic yellow polo, but without the gray cardigan. After Coda, the next time we see her was the next following episode of Ty's death, where she appears in a hallucination scene, and then we last saw her as a corpse on a pile of numerous corpses where she isn't wearing her gray cardigan, which we'd expect her to be in whenever we do see her in a dream sequence or hallucination like Ty's. Do you think she might have lost it post-Coda? If she did, I would be a little sad because I personally loved it on her. When EK wore it, it made Beth look the most stylish out of the Team Family cast, and the possibility of losing it, which is very likely, can no longer make Beth stand out as much. This is actually a really interesting thing to consider because I guess I'd never really thought of it that way, that she did have it in Ty's death hallucination, but she didn't have it in Rick's in 905. So this brings 2 or 3 different things to mind. Okay. The first thing I thought of is, remember in Still, in the golf club, she put on a white sweater, and then Daryl used the golf club to kill a walker and spattered her with blood, and so she took it off. There was a lot of people talking about the symbolism of that. There was, people talked about maybe it was kind of a sexual symbolism, but for me, it just showed, it was a foreshadow of her getting shot to me. Okay, so the white showed that she was the very pure, the very innocent character, and that her blood would be spilt. So it was like a foreshadow or a type of her getting shot, right? And after that, she took off the white sweater as if to show she was going to shed who she was before. She was going to come back stronger. She was going to be different, not bad different, but she was not going to be as innocent as she was before. And that was all a foreshadow of that. And then it's also very, very significant that right after she takes off that sweater, they move to a different room. And that's when she says, "We made it," which signifies her actually surviving the gunshot wound. Okay. So obviously the gray cardigan is not the same as the white, but it might have a similar function, showing that she had it before she was shot, and then afterwards she didn't anymore because she has changed. She's almost like shed that skin of who she was before. It could be something like that. And it would make sense for her to have it in Ty's hallucination because the last he saw her, along with Team Family, she was wearing it. So it just makes sense that that's how he's seeing her in his hallucination. But it could be, and you would expect that in Rick's hallucination she would be wearing it too because that is the last way he saw her. But the fact that she isn't is probably symbolically purposeful to show that when Rick sees her again, she's not going to have that cardigan or what is symbolized by it, which is the person she was back when she got shot in Coda. So there's that, yeah. And keep in mind that 905, I was just talking about this in a previous video. That's when we heard her voice say, "What's your wound?" And it didn't identify her. And I talked last week about how I think that everything in 905 with Rick's hallucination foreshadowed his return inside the CRM, and Beth is there. So that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see her in this first season of The Ones Who Live. I think I would love it if we did, and that's a possibility, but I think it's more likely that it's showing that when we get to the CRM storyline and Rick will be in the CRM, it's going to be that same time period that we're going to see Beth's return, although it might not actually be in Rick's spinoff. We don't really know yet. Okay, so that was the second thing, or did I just go over the first thing? The second thing is that the WD Way has pointed out several times that sweater, the pattern of the crochet in her gray cardigan is the chevron pattern, okay? So you can look up what a chevron is, but if you think of like a gas station, a chevron station, it's just basically two lines that come together at a point and point upward or downward. That's a chevron, and it's a symbol. It's a symbolic symbol. I do think that I have a post on it from a long time ago. I will try to find it and link it up in the show notes, but that's a major symbol. It can have a lot of potential meanings. Again, this is thanks to WD Way for doing the research on this, and I will link it up in the show notes. But some of the things it could possibly mean, and we don't know which one they're going for, maybe all of them, it does tend to be a military or police symbol, or at least we see it in military and police, insignias and emblems and things. So that could be something that points to the CRM. Maybe they specifically chose that sweater for her in season 5 to show that she was going to show up again with, later after she was shot, after she seemed to be dead and then returned, she was going to show up again with like a military organization. Another thing you could point to is that two chevrons put together could create a diamond. And we've said before that diamond is a Beth symbolism. There was a diamond on the table in the funeral home when she and Daryl were in the kitchen. And we've said that, the different women, there's 3 women that she mentions and then Beth herself. So it's, I'm not Michonne, I'm not Carol, I'm not Maggie. And then Beth is the 4th. And there are 4 queens of poker cards. They use the poker cards a lot as symbolism. We've seen it a lot, and we believe that Beth is the Queen of Diamonds, whereas the other suits represent other characters, or the other 3 ladies, So there's that. And then we've also talked a lot about Holy Grail symbolism with Beth, as in Mary Magdalene symbolism. Beth is the Christ figure. There's been Last Supper symbolism, all kinds of stuff. And a chevron turned upside down so the point is down is the same symbol as the Holy Grail. So there's a lot of different things the chevron could be. So again, if that's what they were going for with her sweater, because it does have a chevron pattern, then her shedding that is probably deeply symbolic. And it's hard to say exactly without knowing, Gimple's logic, exactly what it means, but maybe just to show that all the symbolism that was there before is not going to be there now, because before it was showing that she was going to disappear. Now she will have returned, so it will be different symbolism. So that's a possibility. Okay, I had a number 3, and I don't remember now what my third point was. Maybe I already made it in there somewhere. And just kind of melded them together, just the fact that she's not who she used to be, that it's going to show her return. Yeah, I don't remember. I guess if I remember what the third point was, I'll come back and tell you. But you do mention that maybe she lost it in what happened post-coda. It would actually be interesting if she lost it during those missing 17 days. I mean, we don't know. Maybe she did. And maybe that's, in a logical sense, why Rick doesn't see her with it. The other thing is that when we see her in 905 in Rick's hallucination, she's got that blood on her arm. And that's really odd because we never specifically saw blood on her arm. And I don't know what that portends or what that's trying to symbolize, but I'm sure that that is intentional. And it just didn't really need to be there. I mean, you could argue that, she got shot in the head and blood dripped from her head onto her arm, but yeah, I mean, realistically that could happen, but why, number one, not show us her face when we could see everybody else's face that was laying there? And why go out of their way? Like, the camera focused on it, and she had blood on her arm, as though she had a wound on her arm, and we never saw anything like that. So it very well could be something from the missing 17 days, and maybe the cardigan is too, and that's why Rick didn't see her in the hallucination with the cardigan. I don't know. We don't know the answer to that. It's yet another mystery. So thank you for this ask. This was interesting to think about and to analyze. And, once again, we just have to wait till she shows up, and then I think all things will be revealed and all things will make sense. So thank you for sending that in. I think I am over time for today. I am. So I'm just going to quit there, but I will be back tomorrow. Bye.